PlusUltraFam? You guys know my name, so let's hop into the podcast with our PlusUltraFam shoutouts. Today we have Doko, Doug, the Monty Presents, I believe that's how you would say that, the Anime Noob Sauce Grandmaster 616, Mr. Patriot, and Blaze RK9. Also, concerning today's gameplay, I don't have fighters for everyone who's in the comment section just yet. I am doing my best to do that. I think this game does have a limited number of unique fighters to it. That said, a lot of you still aren't using the hashtag PlusUltraFam. Remember, you got to use that hashtag so I can, see your comments and your what ifs, and that's how I'm going to pick and choose who really gets what during the podcast. So you got to put them on there. Remember, it is hashtag capital P, capital U, capital F, PlusUltraFam, all done. Moving on to our interesting comments, we didn't have a ton of variety with this one. Most of the things we had what ifs that didn't have the hashtag PlusUltraFam tag. We had a few comments about what people might have thought of their named fighters. We had a few criticisms over the what ifs that are here in the podcast. Hey, I really don't mind if you guys criticizing the what ifs that are here in the podcast. These are supposed to be just fun. I'm putting very little thought in these. I'm not doing a ton of research. I'm not really trying to make these a main series, whatever. It's just supposed to be us kind of chilling out, relaxing, me telling a really quick story and trying to help you guys, kind of calm down and have your creative juices kind of, put to use. I don't really know how to, say this, but that's basically what I mean. But Mr. Patriot asks for some what if advice. I think I have given what if advice in this podcast before. No, I have. It was to Nut Entertainment in one episode, but this is recorded August 12th, 2019. Some what if advice I can give you is always, be pretty brave with what ifs. Don't ever think I can't go too far off the beat of canon. I can't really do too much what the canon story didn't do because it's really, really boring. Something I've noticed with people who watch what if videos and really like them, sometimes they have really closed minds about what ifs. At the time of writing this, or at the time of recording this, I haven't gotten too far in the What If Jiraiya Adopted Naruto series. That series is at part 5, act 2, at the time of recording. And I had somebody comment to me the other day, oh man, it's going to be really sad when Jiraiya dies in this timeline. And my question to you would be, why do you think Jiraiya would die in this timeline? Why do you think the circumstances will be the exact same way that lead up to Jiraiya dying in this timeline? This is why I've started to institute the whole randomizing the tournament arcs in some shonen anime. You can't do that with everything. In some of the World Martial Arts tournaments, Chaozu was manipulating who would fight who. So you can't really do that there. But if it's anything where the fights are supposed to be randomized, like the Chunin exams, the first World Martial Arts tournament, maybe the Dark tournament if you did a Yu Hakusho what if you did the tournament from the Hunter exams, you could do that. You can randomize those fights and have some very cool, interesting things that didn't happen in canon happen. So never be afraid to go off of canon. And I know I talk about how you can't really own what if ideas and stuff like that, and a lot of you might know what I'm saying this in regards to is that not even going to get into it in this podcast, but a lot of you might know what I'm saying this in regards to. If you're going to do a what if series that you've seen somebody else try and do, don't ever feel bad about doing the same series. Don't ever feel like you're not going to be as adequate as them. Do the series, have fun, tell your story. That's my number one advice. My number two advice in this, your second priority with this, is try and study what they did, and where you can, try and make fun differences. Say oh, I would have done that differently. So if you're going to tell your own story, do that differently. Try and make it different enough to where it is visibly a big change that is very fun to see. So that's my big advice for what if advice. Noob Sauce asks, how am I feeling about the podcast? Honestly, Noob Sauce, and all of you, I've been loving recording these podcasts for you. They are so fun because basically the podcasts are keeping me from getting writer's block too bad. A lot of you who have been following me for a long time know that I do kind of have trouble with writing. Sometimes I'll write one story and I'll be like, I don't really know where I want to go with this. And sitting down doing the podcast has helped me do that because I can be a little more creative with this. I'm also very famously against crossover what ifs. Somebody says oh, what if a Saiyan landed in Naruto? I'm usually gonna be I don't really like crossover what ifs. That's because crossover what ifs have so much speculation in them that I feel like you take a lot of the fun from a what if trying to be oh, well, what would the character do in this situation? What would the character do in this situation? And trying to use the logic of that series and try and deal with a different alternate timeline there. And you're really going into fan fiction. Not to bash fan fiction. I used to be a huge fan fiction fan. I keep going off kind of kilter in this one, but I had a comment on one of my older Naruto what ifs, and somebody was saying like, this reminds me of this fan fiction. It was a fan fiction I had actually read, and I commented to the person like, oh, that's actually really cool. That's one of my favorite fan fiction writers, and the story he was talking about was actually one of my favorite fan fiction stories of all time. If I remember, I think it's Kenichi618. He does some really good Naruto what ifs. If I remember to, I will be sure to link him in the description below if you guys just like to read fan fiction. But yeah, this is kind of allowing me to be as creative and as off kilter with my what ifs as I really want to be. I don't have to put a ton of editing into them. I can just sit back, relax, talking to the microphone. And in podcast number 5, I believe, we were talking about Doku Doku's comment where he was saying these are kind of therapeutic to him. He can kind of fall asleep to these. I kind of get that just by being able to vent with these. I'm really enjoying that. Now, if I had to say anything about the podcast that I'm a little worried about, I might be a little worried that a ton of people aren't watching. But I mean, at the same time, when I began these, I knew I wasn't going to get a ton of views on these. I'm very happy where they are now. In fact, the last one has done the best of any of them. I guess it's because I did the what if Hinata was on Team 7 idea, which I will be doing again in this podcast. That was what a lot of the other comments in this last podcast were about. Like, do that again. So yeah, I'm enjoying this. My only real worry is that some people might start to, and I've had a few worries on the channel, I guess. My only real worry currently is that some people might start to kind of like lean away from my what ifs. They're like, oh, he's only doing those podcasts or like live streaming now. And that's not really true. What's about to happen is, and again, this is like August 12th. I'm going to go back to school on August 26th, I believe. What's going to happen is, once I go back to school, I'll be doing one what if a month, or not one a month, my bad. One what if a week, a podcast, hopefully, and a live stream, hopefully. And that'll be the weekly schedule because I just can't afford to pump out so much content during the whole week. And I've got schoolwork to get done. I've got friends I got to hang out with. I've got family stuff I got to do. It's stuff that are going to happen outside of YouTube that I can't just devote all my time to this like I did during the summer. So what's going to happen with that is I'm just hoping people will continue to come back and watch all that content. And I'm hoping the podcast will kind of come in and be, something that doesn't necessarily cover for the loss of 2 what ifs a week, but it'll definitely, make that loss a lot easier to bear with, if that makes sense. Now, full disclosure, on Patreon right now, one of the goals on Patreon is to reach a certain number of money a month and begin to hire an editor so that I can get more videos out to you guys more frequently. I'm not trying to plug Patreon. I'm not trying to, coerce anybody to go support Patreon. I'm just letting you know, like, full disclosure, that is something I'm trying to do right now on the channel. Another little worry I have is that when I started off on my channel, my quality was really, really bad. Like, if you go back to watch my first ever what if, which was what if Goku joined Raditz, that video was terrible. I'm going to remake it very, very soon if I do get a chance to do it. So I feel like a lot of people might have came to my channel early on, saw that, been like, oh, this guy's trash, and just left and have never come back. So I feel like I probably turned a lot of people off from my channel just by them coming in and saying, like, his quality is so bad, I can't really stand to watch it. So that's one of my worries, because, like, full disclosure, I look at Salad Saiyan, and all props to him, all congratulations to him. He has done way better than I have. I think he's not even, at the time of recording, been on the channel or been on his channel 6 months, and already he's really, really close to my subscriber count. Whereas I'm really close to my 1-year anniversary, and he's done what I've done in a year, just like grinding it out, just by doing what he's been doing naturally. So it kind of shows the difference in skill and potential, I guess you can really say. That's kind of one of my worries, that I might have driven some people away. Anyway, I'm going to shut up so we can get to the what ifs, because I know that's what you guys have really come for. So let's get to it. Alright, Joseph Andrews asks, what if Nappa turned good? Now, MasakoX did an amazing job with this idea, and I will definitely try and remember to link his video in the description below. If I don't, somebody in the comments yell at me and I'll definitely get onto it. Just exact same thing with the fanfiction idea as well. But, yeah. Let's try and be a bit different from his. So, after Planet Vegeta's destruction, Nappa has a realization. Saiyans are now an endangered species, and because of that, they can't necessarily afford to act as they always have. They can't be the nasty, mean, and, throw each other under the bus type of people as they usually were. So he takes the initiative to take care of Raditz, the weakest link in Vegeta's team, and help him grow in strength, as well as being a bit more caring and nurturing to him to foster some more compassion in the young Saiyan and kind of get him to also emulate what Nappa is now doing. I also think he would do his best to save the 2 unnamed Saiyans on the team, but by not having names, they have doomed themselves to the all-powerful plot. Raditz reacts very well to this more nurturing version of Nappa, while Vegeta does not. He's disgusted with Nappa, doting on the boys and just being so sickeningly sweet and, caring about their injuries or how they feel currently. It's so annoying to Vegeta. And at some point, this drives a wedge between he and Nappa, and drives Nappa and Raditz to be a lot closer than they really were in canon. Raditz basically becomes more loyal to Nappa than anybody else. Now, the Dragon Ball story would go the exact same up until it's time for Raditz to go to Earth. When he arrives, he is stronger and less aggressive. Let's put him at about a 3,000 here. And with his attempts to, coerce Goku to join the Saiyans, he isn't as aggressive, like I just said. The Goku, at least in the standards of Saiyans, he's not being too pushy, but he is trying to get him to join them. Goku isn't, really wanting to, and because of Raditz has been nurtured by Nappa to not be so forceful, to not be so arrogant, so mean, Raditz isn't really going to try and force his hand. Now, he actually calls to Nappa and Vegeta when he realizes that Kakarot has had a kid, and he informs him that, hey, here on Earth, Kakarot has been able to breed. Nappa is ecstatic to hear this, but Vegeta doesn't really care. He tells Raditz that if his brother isn't joining them, then he needs to kill him and come back. That pisses Nappa off, and finally he reaches the edge. He decides that Vegeta needs an attitude adjustment. Now, I said Nappa was more nurturing and a lot nicer. I didn't say he was any more intelligent. I think that Nappa dies really, really easily in this fight, and this pisses Raditz off to all hell, because he hears all this over the scouter. He yells at Vegeta that he vows that he will get him back for this, and Vegeta just chuckles and says that he welcomes the challenge. In fact, he'll just come to Earth and make it so that he's the last of the Saiyans. He'll also finish Kakarot's job for him. He'd be there in 1 year. Goku doesn't really understand exactly what is happening here, but he understands that Raditz is not a foe, and that he's just lost someone. That he really isn't the baddest guy that was there. He kind of came in a little more aggressive than he needed to, but he's not his enemy. You can tell that. He tells him that they'll help, and even Piccolo, who probably would have met up with Raditz earlier, and now it's heard that there's an even more powerful foe actually coming to fight, he is now ready to train and get stronger as well, but likely not with Goku. I also think that Goku introduces Raditz to the Z Fighters, especially Bulma, who he then borrows the Dragon Radar from. Raditz and Goku then go around the Earth collecting the Dragon Balls, with the goal of resurrecting Nappa on Earth. With a Zenkai boost and a quick debrief, Nappa expresses his gratitude to the brothers, especially to Raditz, who he has come to see as a son. He decides to take up training of the All Earth's forces, while also taking a very big interest in Gohan as the new generation of Saiyans. Now, Nappa was a Saiyan general, so I imagine he would train everybody as pretty much a group, since he kind of has a military mindset. Let's say he's about 5.5 after he's resurrected. And, he's maybe when Raditz and Bulma meet, Raditz might be attracted to Bulma's intelligence, especially since he might spend a lot of time at Capsule Corp, because I feel like Nappa would commission a gravity machine from Bulma just so he can get the troops, stronger by having them train in the 10 times gravity of Planet Vegeta. But it isn't complete until 6 months later by using pieces of Goku and Raditz's ship. I don't think it'll be too effective either. No one but Nappa and Raditz are used to 10 times gravity, so they have to work up to be able to, spend time under it. After 1 year, let's say the humans really couldn't use the gravity machine too well, and so rarely train, if at all. So most of their training is with Kami or maybe Nappa. They're a bit stronger, but not too much. Tien's at like 2.5, Krillin's at like 2.3, Yamcha is at 2,000, Yajirobe like 1,100, and Chaozu like 1,000. Piccolo may use a gravity machine, so he's around 4 to 5k, I'd say. Gohan should be around 8,000 since he's probably going to be trying his hardest, and Nappa's definitely going to be trying to teach him and nurture him the most out of anyone here. I'm going to say that Goku suffers a bit in terms of power by not getting to go to King Kai's and train with him and learn all those new techniques. So let's say he's just over 11,000 to 12,000. Nappa's getting older, so let's say that he makes it to 7,000 because he spends most of his time training others, looking after Gohan, and not really powering himself up. Raditz is definitely now the highest at around 14,000. But I'm sure that Goku's a better fighter and probably knows a lot more variety in his techniques, if I'll say that. When Vegeta arrives, all the Z Fighters are there to fight him, and he's completely shocked at seeing this Nappa has been revived. It's as if he's seen a ghost. For the sake of time, Vegeta plants his own personal Cybermen that are much stronger than Nappa's, and the Z Fighters fight these guys. Before then, Nappa, Goku, and Raditz team up against Vegeta. We also get to see great Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz in an all-for-one, or a three-for-all. They're fighting, basically. And because Gohan would have trained with Nappa and not Piccolo, I'd imagine he actually goes into this fight with his tail and possibly able to control his Ozaru form. So you would actually see Gohan as a grade 8 fighting with him as well. Vegeta is beaten, but Goku and Nappa convince everyone to spare his life. Perhaps showing him mercy now would inspire some goodness in his heart from later on. And I'll leave this one here for now if you guys enjoyed this. D. Freeman asks, what if Deku had his father's quirk? Now, Deku's father is Hayashi or Sasashi Midori. It's one of those. But his father's quirk is actually the ability to breathe fire. I actually like this idea, actually. So let's say that when Deku is young, he learns that he can breathe fire, but it's pretty weak. A little stronger than his dad's, but not really a super flashy ability. But by having a quirk, this allows Deku to run in Bakugo's friend group and be accepted. I think this would cause Bakugo to be more accepting, and his bullying is more in the vein of teasing here. He just thinks that Deku's quirk is too weak and not cool enough to be like All Might. This causes Deku to start training, and slowly but surely, his quirk is powering up. From what Vlad King said, if you stress your quirk enough, it will slowly power up over time. Deku's lung capacity starts to grow, and the heat of his flames is also growing. But his major weakness in this timeline is that the flames are getting so strong that the thrust of blowing them can actually hurt his neck sometimes. And when he's younger, he actually breaks his neck a few times. The heat isn't really going to be a problem because I feel like if this was his quirk, he might have a small adaptation that allows maybe his lips or his mouth, like the insides of his mouth, to be like invulnerable from burns or stuff like that. So I'm going to say the thrust is what his major weakness is here. There's this really cool scene in Avatar: The Last Airbender where Aang is like doing push-ups just by blowing on the ground. So let's say that Deku basically trains by doing that. In middle school, Deku takes the same way home and is attacked by the sludge villain, but is unable to breathe fire on it as it blocks his airway. All Might saves Deku, and in this timeline, Deku does grab onto him. They have a similar conversation, and All Might drops the villain. Later on, Bakugo is still attacked, but here, Deku doesn't even hesitate, as he and Bakugo are decent friends here. He blinds the sludge villain and runs up. Breathing fire onto the sludge, it causes it to heat up and kind of bubble and boil, and it becomes very loose. Bakugo then uses a few explosions, and he's able to push himself out of the sludge, and the two boys run away. The pro heroes are now able to attack the sludge villain without hurting Bakugo. Here, All Might never even gets to step in. Later on, both Bakugo and Deku are complimented for their quirks and their heroics, and they even receive some invitations to become sidekicks once they graduate high school. Then, All Might appears in his muscle form. He congratulates both boys and actually grabs Deku by his jacket before jumping away with him. All Might calms Deku down and explains that he's the kind of person All Might has been looking for. His quirk wasn't absolutely amazingly flashy, but even so, he never even hesitated to save someone. Unlike All Might, he offers to train Deku and pass on his quirk, and Deku does accept after getting over his shock. Now, the ancient Past American Dream Plan would likely be very similar. Yeah, Deku has a quirk in this timeline, but I think that it's possible for All for One, or One for All, to still have an effect on Deku's physicality, meaning he would still have super strength after he receives it. Now, there might be a statement that kind of debunks this. I think there's something that is said about Todoroki. If he received it, he would get like stronger flames and stronger ice, and he probably wouldn't get super strength. I kind of disagree with this idea because it seems like your physical body would still be a part of your power set. Like the way that Deku doesn't get anything outside of physical strength when he first receives One for All because he didn't have a quirk, it seems like you would still gain the physical strength. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but you have to remember something, that One for All has not been explored fully as of yet. I'm completely caught up in the story yet, and there's still some unanswered questions. So there's some wiggle room here. When the training is done, Deku is a bit stronger than his canon version, and thanks to having a stronger body, his neck doesn't feel all the strain when he blows his flames, which are now hotter and more powerful when they blow out. I even think Deku creates his own special move, or ultimate move in this time, which would be kind of based off the kaiju hero Godzilla. He's able to condense and make his flames hot enough to become blue, and this is what he calls his atomic breath. Deku would do even better in the entry exams here in this timeline because he can destroy the robots with his fire breath, and he probably saves Uraraka in the exact same way. Aizawa's quirk apprehension test is similar, though Deku could do better by using his fire breathing in the sprints. I know that We the Celestials did this scenario, I think, and something he had happen was Deku basically runs backwards and blows his flames, and that allows him to like create some thrust, or I think he had him like throw the softball and breathe fire on it. I don't think Deku has to do that really and truly. He can probably just still use One for All here. Because if you blew fire on the softball, it probably wouldn't add any thrust to it. It'd probably just burn it. Aside from that, I'll leave Mineta in UA because even though he would actually be kicked out of UA if Deku did better than him in the test, people really don't like when I do that, so I'll just leave him here. I feel like the story goes really similar, just Deku has a quirk that he can use when he hasn't really figured out full cowling and keeps hurting himself by using one for all. Now, for a really small spoil, like this is really super small. Later on in the story, Deku I'll just give you a countdown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, spoiler now. Later in the story, Deku develops his ability to use the Delaware Smash a bit better, and I think something he could do with that is maybe once he uses that attack, he's able to blow his fire into that, and that allows him to make like fireballs. But outside of that, I wouldn't really know how to change the story too much because, again, My Hero Academia isn't finished as a manga yet, and I kind of wanted to leave Deku with One for All here because I felt like unless he had something on top of just the fire breathing, he would be kind of weak. Something I would like to do is like maybe if he were to power this quirk up, he would realize the quirk isn't fire breathing. The quirk is kind of like a hero that you'll see later in season 4 of My Hero Academia, where she is I'll leave that spoiler done, and I'll leave the story here for now, guys. You guys really enjoyed the Hinata What If from last time at Hakai Master suggested, I believe, and I really enjoyed writing it, so we'll go ahead and we'll jump back into it for a bit, and there will be no recap. I'll just mention a few small details throughout. Upon returning to the Leaf Village, Team 7 takes a super small break, at most like 3 days, and then Naruto is at Training Ground 7 doing push-ups and running laps. Soon, Kakashi and his teammates find him, and he explains that the only thing he can think of doing right now is getting stronger. He won't let anybody else die on his watch, or else he can't be a Hokage. Now, something very interesting is that Kakashi really understands this ideal, as he was once very similar. So having that experience, he now knows a good way to motivate his team with their first real casualty, but keep them from going down the exact same path that he did. And so the next month, I believe that's how much time they have for the Chunin exams, is full of training and very, very, very few D-rank missions. Sasuke doesn't even really listen to Kakashi about being fully recovered before he gets back to his own training. Kakashi begins to allow Hinata to become the cornerstone of the team almost. She's the most well-rounded outside of her lack of ninjutsu skills, and so he has her work on Naruto's taijutsu with him, as well as his chakra control, even though it's pretty good since all of Team 7 can currently water walk and tree walk. At the same time, he has Sasuke begin training with Hinata and use the Byakugan. A big thing is that this is going to allow Sasuke to kind of understand how to activate his Sharingan a bit better, be quicker with it, things like that. So I think after this month, he's definitely got 3 Tomo in each eye, or at least 3 Tomo in one and 2 Tomo in the other one. Basically, they just stress Sasuke's eyes and try and get him to copy things pretty much constantly. One of the things he does is spar with Hinata a lot, and through this, he is actually able to copy the Gentle Fist, and slowly begins to integrate some of the moves that are found in it into his own fighting style, which I believe is called the Intercepting Fist. Now, all this training allows Hinata some really good taijutsu practice, not only with Naruto and Sasuke, but with Sasuke, she's getting some taijutsu practice against another Gentle Fist user, and she's able to kind of critique her own style and then make little improvements on it by seeing what she might do wrong by how Sasuke copies it. Now, during this, Naruto is feeling kind of left out and at a really big disadvantage. He's kind of sad. He doesn't have any Kekkei Genkai, and the death of Inari is still weighing on him. How is he going to get as strong as possible and be the Hokage and protect everyone if he doesn't have any special power? So he begins to look inside of himself and try and figure out what he himself can do that not many other people can do. And the answer is one that he really doesn't like because all he's coming up with is the Nine Tails. I think he seeks counsel with Kakashi, who I think would encourage Naruto to seek greater control over his curse and make it into a blessing. He could even try and tell Naruto about how in other villages, the Jinchuriki try and harness their power to be weapons of war. Now, that's not really how he sees Naruto, but it's a really good idea in telling him that other Jinchuriki do the same thing, they just harness their Jinchuriki powers, basically. Not to mention, when your comrade's lives are on the line, no price is too high to pay. So, Naruto begins to train in controlling his Kyuubi chakra. Basically, what he used on the bridge, he's trying to be able to control that at 100% success. I imagine that Kakashi would just keep getting Naruto into the state and letting him get used to the feeling by just sitting still sometimes, or maybe trying to meditate in it. When the month is over, the team is told about the Chunin exams, and they're all much stronger. Hinata has grown in confidence by leaps and bounds because she spent so much time with Naruto, pretty much one-on-one. She won't be doing any public confessions or, speaking acts, but she can definitely talk to Naruto with a light blush, and I'd say around this time, she begins to start beating Hanabi in their spars. And because of this, she'll receive more training from her father, so she doesn't hesitate as much, if at all, to enter the tuning exams. Now, the initial part of the arc is pretty much the exact same. Naruto and Sasuke taijutsu is better, but Lee is a specialist, so it's a loss for them. The Ren exam should be left pretty much the exact same, really, though Hinata may confidently help Naruto cheat, though I don't think they would sit together since they are teammates here, and the Force of Death could have a small change. Sasuke's greater chakra control and the myriad of strength he's gained as of recently allows him to do better against Snake Sonin, and Naruto's greater control with his demon state allows him to kill the snake and return to the battle much sooner. Though even with her, increased confidence, I believe Hinata's timid nature sends her into a real comatose shock from sensing Orochimaru's killing intent. This makes the battle a 2-on-1, but Naruto and Sasuke aren't really synced up too well when fighting, and Naruto is taken by the 5-pronged seal. Orochimaru then applies his curse mark to Sasuke, but before he leaves, he kinda takes another glance at Hinata. This was the current Hyuga heiress and likely had the best Byakugan in all her family. She'd also gotten a lot stronger, so she wasn't a bad prospect in terms of a new host body. And if she died, she would just be more research for this curse mark. So Hinata is also bitten by Orochimaru. So the entirety of Team 7 is pretty much just unconscious on the forest floor right now. Now eventually Team Dosu would probably arrive, and I feel like Naruto would probably wake up first, but right now his teammates' lives are on the line and Kuroma's chakra is blocked off to him. So Naruto is going to have to fight one-on-one with no special powers. He is constantly getting back up against all the odds and impeding Dosu's squad mates from doing anything. His eardrums are busted and he's got more sinbone in him than Sasuke ever did. He looks like a doggone hedgehog, but he gets up again and again and again, and it seems like he's going to kill himself to protect his friends. Just before Dosu can land the killing blow, 2 swirls of evil purple chakra erupt. Sasuke was terrifying, but after seeing the state of her crush, Hinata could put the tailed beast to shame. In one swift and fluid motion, while using the more lethal moves of the Gentle Fist, Hinata moves between the Sound Ninja and puts each and every one of them down for good. With Naruto in such a critical state, Hinata doesn't even try and rein in the dark power of Orochimaru before she puts Naruto on her back and begins to run towards the tower in the center of the forest, with Sasuke following her soon afterwards. They finally make it there and are allowed to enter, even though they don't have the needed scrolls, because Naruto is basically on the verge of death, and Sasuke and Hinata both have curse marks. Let's say this gives them an extra 3 days of resting time before the prelims. Though it is unfair, Team 7 is allowed to participate in the exams because of the circumstances of what they had to go through and plot. Kakashi puts a suppression seal on Hinata and Sasuke and probably has to speak to Orochimaru as well, and Naruto is taken to a hospital to heal up. Though he would probably still have the 5-pronged seal on until he can explain to somebody what actually happened. Let's leave the prelim matchups the same as in canon. Sasuke whoops Yoroi. Most other matches are the exact same. Sakura may beat Ino since she's been training with Kurenai, and that's Kunoichi, and she's a Kunoichi, so she probably wouldn't allow her to be too weak for pretty much any longer. Naruto has better chakra control and taijutsu, so I think he doesn't really struggle against Kiba all that much. And in her fight with Neji, Hinata is fighting him on 2 fronts. The suppression seal works in regards to the user's willpower, and if Neji makes her doubt herself for even a moment, it'll break. Now keep in mind, she is stronger and has Naruto fervently cheering for her in the stands, but her cousin's words hurt, and the fact that she has gotten so strong only makes him degrade her even more. Eventually, I think it begins to get too much, and the seal does break. And in a very un-Hinata-like moment, the girl yells at her cousin to shut up, and she uses her hands to catch Neji's hands, and with the curse mark spreading over her body and powering her up, she crushes both his wrists. Then, using a move that's not even from the Gentle Fist, Hinata jumps up and plants both her feet firmly into Neji's face. Neji is sent flying off into the wall, but before Hinata can press her advantage and go any further, the Jonin step in to hold her back, kind of like they did to Neji. The rest of the matches are the exact same, though Hinata has to have her curse mark resealed, and she's probably very ashamed of herself. Though I think Naruto, in a rare moment of maturity, would come and find her and kind of tell her 2 things. Number 1, it was okay. Sometimes people push you too far and the monster comes out. Number 2, she better not hold back in their match. He wanted everything she had. Hinata trains Hayashi and learns some high-level Hyuga techniques, including the rotation. Not the protective one, the actual rotation. Naruto and Jiraiya still train. Ebisu may have Naruto work on an even fighter chakra control exercise than water walking, but Jiraiya then takes over and he unlocks Naruto's suppression seal. The two still work on summoning, but it's easier because Naruto has a better grasp on the Kyuubi chakra here. Because of this, Jiraiya helps Naruto master his enhanced state with completely perfect control. Like that badass scene where Naruto roars through Sasuke's fireball jutsu, Naruto can just use that level of Kyuubi chakra anytime he really wants to with perfect control and, perfect clarity. Sasuke is basically the same, who cares? Moving on to the exams, Naruto versus Hinata is a true knockdown, drag out dog fight. These two are basically equals now, and Hinata truly wants to win this. She wants to come out on top and show Naruto how strong she truly is, so that he'll look up to her and finally take notice of her. And if she gets emotional enough, I think she tells him this during the match. But finally, Naruto's greater attack potency and stamina kind of allows him to take the win. Though now that he knows Hinata's feelings for him, he really doesn't understand the concept of what this kind of romantic love really is, but he's able to understand that she has a lot of admiration for him, and he's going to try and reciprocate that in some manner. I imagine the rest of this arc goes mostly the exact same as canon. Gaara is beaten way easier though, Tsunade is retrieved, Sasuke is angry at how quickly Naruto is growing, especially here in this timeline as well as he's doing, and he has changed a bit, but not enough to really make a definitive change. He leaves the village, and Hinata would likely be on the retrieval team with Naruto. Though Neji possibly couldn't, but I feel like if Tsunade comes and heals him, maybe a broken wrist or maybe like a broken nose, that might not be too bad for her to heal. So Neji is probably up and running by the time it's time to go, and he's probably kind of gotten his head back in the right place where he's not just such a dick anymore. With Hinata on the team, and then later Rock Lee appearing, and then the Sand siblings probably appearing, the Sound 5 are pretty much whooped easily, and I think in this timeline, Naruto just having a better grasp over his chakra control, his Kyuubi state at least, he is able to pull out the win against Sasuke with some trouble, but he does pull it out, and he actually does drag Sasuke back to the village with broken arms, broken legs, and pretty much a crushed sternum, but he's alive. Sasuke is basically thrown in jail to serve out a sentence and go through some rehabilitation because he did just commit treason. While this happens, Jiraiya approaches Naruto and invites him onto a training trip, which Naruto is less reluctant to go on, though he might want to kind of stay because he now wants to kind of explore his new relationship, if you want to call it that, with Hinata. Again, Naruto's so oblivious, he really doesn't know what this is. He just knows that Hinata is basically now his best friend. Naruto doesn't really understand why he's so sad about this, but he tells Hinata he'll be leaving for the training trip, and she's also very sad, but she does summon up enough courage to walk over, kiss him on the cheek, and tell him to go out and get as strong as he possibly could. She's going to do the same, and while he's gone, she's going to do her best to make sure that Sasuke gets his head, screwed back onto the right type of state. And once he got back, she was going to do everything in her power to help Naruto become the new Hokage. But I'm going to leave this one here for right now. Now, in closing for this podcast, this is the first time I've ever continued a what if that I've started in a previous podcast. For now, we'll do a different Naruto what if for the next one, just to be fair to others, because we have actually had some other suggestions. I don't want to just focus on this one, even though it's doing really, really well for the views. But hopefully I get a few people in here who have not seen the podcast yet, and they see that these can be really fun, podcasts to kind of put in the background and maybe like play a game or, take a bath or whatever you want to do. I don't care. I'm not going to judge you. So be sure to follow me on Twitter so you guys can stay updated with the latest things that go on the channel and know everything that I'm doing, whether it's like a what if I'm going to do next or the next, things like that. You get a lot of previews on Twitter. I would really appreciate if you guys would help me get to way more Twitter followers than I usually have right now. I'm at almost 250, I think, at the time of recording. So if you guys could help me bump that up to 500, maybe 1,000, I would be so ecstatic. But yeah, guys, this has already ran pretty long, so basic stuff. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and please, please, please hit the notification bell. I get a ton of comments from you guys who'll be like, I didn't even see this upload, or I didn't even know you had a new part out to this, whatever, something like that. YouTube does its best to hide the new content of smaller channels. It just does. Be sure you hit the like button and the notification bell, and that'll help you guys stay updated what goes on the channel. And remember, for your comments and your suggestions, be sure to make sure all the grammar is right and put the hashtag PlusUltraFam. Shout out to my patrons. Take care of yourselves and always go beyond Plus Ultra. See you guys next time.